Now, I'm not quite sure. I think this is a Triumph Mayflower. Wow. Yeah, I've got a history with bullet connectors like this, and it doesn't end well, trust me. You end up redoing them about 20 times over, and they still don't function properly. I just love this sort of stuff. Now, when you're presented with a car like this now, I just think, don't respray it, don't over restore it. This is nice. Don't mess with this sort of stuff. Just get it running, get it relatively clean, but don't paint it. Don't do anything to it, because I do think that there has been a period where people have over restored these kind of cars. But as it is, with all these blemishes, I wouldn't mess with this. I would just leave it well alone. I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I really do think this sort of stuff, you know, I'm all for painting stuff and making it look nice, but stuff this age, I would be all for preserving it as much as possible. As we're going along, we have the TR Drivers Club, and I've always fancied a TR7. I'm going to say that quite a lot in the next hour or so, depending on how long this is, but TR7s have always been something of a curiosity. This one, I've never actually seen one being an estate version. Why is that? Right, this is a Crayford TRC Tracer Estate. There was only one built. That's incredible. This was the only one built, and it was used to gain orders at various car shows. So that's why I don't recognise it, because this is just a one-off build. Crayford did a lot for P60s and a lot of other cars from that period. I've never. So you've got the mini seat at the back as well. I mean, only children could sit in there, but that's incredible. I didn't even know what it was for a second there. And over here we have the TR8. Now this is the V8 version. Naturally, the Rover V8, being owned to British Leyland, they pretty much stuck it in almost every single car. And naturally, if they were trying to sell this car in America, you got to fit, ironically, an engine that started as an American Buick 215. This was imported from Abu Dhabi and rebuilt in 2022. Wow, sorry sir. Wow. This started life in the Abu Dhabi. Not to everyone's taste, that the wedge shape was a little bit up and coming for the late 70s, but it appeals more than what it did then. And you're going to see that a lot of car shows where there's just so many cars that were just too advanced for the time they came out. But now the realization that actually the wedge shape is actually really cool. And I think in the 80s, 90s, this started to become a bit more popular when it had finished production. And it's been a classic for many years. We've got another one over here, the different alloys, which is non-standard. Again, you get the check pattern seats, being modified a little bit. I love these vent slats. Oh, I'm losing the plot here. There's just so much around. We have another Capri. Oh, hold on. If that's a Broadsbury Capri, it is indeed. And it's been fully restored by the look of it. Yeah, it's a Broadspeed. Woo. Reef. And then right next to it, oh yes, Rover R3 214 or 216. I'm going to have a guess that it might be a 214, judging by the hubcaps. British Racing green, lovely colour, typically what you'd expect. the bubble car, which obviously became the Rover 25 later on. You do not see many of these now. They are as rare as hen's teeth. The R3s have they've literally done a death. And I tell you what I've noticed at this show is I'm really glad that I can see cars that have come to the show and they've got swirls, because my car has swirls and I get conscious of that. So I'm pleased that cars have come here with swirls. But you know what? Seriously, I think some of us need to get together in our Mark 1s to have a stand together, because quite frankly, mine is comparable to some of the cars at this show. It's a big truck. I don't know much about trucks, but it's clean. Yeah, that's one big transfer box going to the back, and the prop shaft is huge, and that silencer is even bigger. Right here we have the Jaguar stand. Now this is where I might get lost a little bit, because I'm into Rovers. I'm not as much into Jaguars, but I do like, and I suspect this is a Series 1 XJ. It is. Now you can tell I know a lot about these cars already. I've actually spoken a lot about these cars in the past, and this is exactly the same issue that my P6 had. You'd polish it up, it would look gorgeous for 5 seconds, it would rain, and this was how it would look. I don't know what goes on with cellulose paint when this happens, but it's gone flat. Mine had exactly the same issue. Typical rot at the bottom there, but it's nice to see one that isn't actually completely restored. As again, the woodwork, well, the Furflex is gone. That's typical. Furflex always goes like that, but it just needs a clean up. Oh my god, we've got cassettes. And it's got a cassette tape deck there, and it's a manual gearbox. How rare is that? Most of these are automatics. That's really nice to see. This will be a 4.2 by judgment. Look at the size of the bumper. You've got the corner there, and it continues all the way to this wing. That's what you pay for when you buy a Jaguar. Oh no! Now, if you know anything about Jaguars, the 2.8 litre was the lowest engine capacity you could buy on a Series 1. These are as rare as hen's teeth. I had the opportunity of actually buying one ages ago. I didn't, and it was actually in similar condition to this. This was when they were worth far less than what they are now. But the 2.8 was only a capacity, I think it was a short stroke engine that they introduced mainly to sell the car in America and quite a few different markets to get under taxation, because taxation in certain countries, particularly America, was based on engine size. And this cut corners and got around that, because the other size was the 3.8 litre. That was the next up, the 3.8. And that was still too big, so they had to downsize the XK engine quite a bit to get a 2.8 short stroke capacity engine. Lovely though, really nice to see. I think these are probably the most gorgeous saloon cars you can get your hands on. I've got a love for P6s, but they're not comparable, because the P6s appeal to a different type of customer. Jaguars, very few people could get their hands on one. I mean, look at all the switches and the dials. It's like being in an airplane cockpit. And we have a Jaguar Sovereign, which is, I believe this is an X308. It was either an X300 or an X308, depending on spec. These are everywhere. These are still on the roads today. You see the odd one or two. They were everywhere a few years ago. They've just disappeared. And I recommend, if you want to get into classic car ownership, modern classic car ownership, I should say, I would suggest getting one of these, because some of them, the ones that survive, are probably the best built, and you won't get as I would say you won't have as many rust issues, but you may have. It depends on the quality of the ownership and how well it's been looked after. I know quite a few people have really loved and cherished their versions, and they have very little rust underneath. But the ones that survive today are more likely to have less rust. Big cat. And this is what you come to see when you come to a Practical Classics restoration show. People working on their cars, and I believe we are doing some brake work. Definitely doing some brake work here. Interesting. Discs, calipers, and a very used minor. Superb. Well, this one here looks as if it's having a completely new ash frame, and you can get these made. It will cost as much as it costs, but getting ash is a little bit more tricky than what it used to be these days. And the cost of it obviously is going up because ash is an endangered tree. But it's really nice to see something being rebuilt. That is a completely new frame, nicely fitted. On there. Another nice minor over here. A tiny little A series engine in there. Right, I am now going to try and make my way over here. We have got the live stage going on. Mr. Mike Brewer is, I can hear his voice from a mile off now. I have got my voice very close to the camera. And this is an Austin 1800 Land Crab, which actually completed the Mexico World Cup Rally in 1970. Oh, okay, so this is quite an historic vehicle. This is a really long-lived, valuable car with pedigree, history, rally pedigree. And this is what you would kind of expect, twin carbs. Nothing outrageous. You just have to tune everything precisely right to get the best out of any cars this age in any form of rallying. And obviously we have a Ford Capri here, a Ford Capri 2.8 V6, which was also running in that rally. Wow. Okay, the standard bench riveted on vents. You got the noise there. It did start out as, yeah, it is actually. Left-hand drive, as usual. Now, a car make that I have not much awareness about is the Opel Mantra. The Opel Mantra. Curious cars, and I really don't know too much about them. I wish I brought my mate along, because actually I would actually he'd actually tell me exactly what I need to know on these motors, but I can't really tell you. Other than the fact that they are now incredibly rare, as they are like most cars this age, but I can appreciate the engineering that goes into some of these. Opel here, and I do like familiar sights like this. Now, is this a Maestro? It is indeed. The truth is, and I will say this, there was a time where the back end of a Maestro van and an Escort van looked identical. Same windows, same almost identical rear lights. You'd never guess. You'd never be able to tell between the two. This is the Black Country Classic Car Club. These were everywhere. Maestro vans were absolutely everywhere. Poverty spec inside, poverty spec bumpers, and they even got the sealed beam units and not halogens, which are completely ugly, by the way. They fitted the same lights to the Metros, but it denotes the poverty spec. You got that as well. Now, who likes Alfa Romeos? And who likes Alfa Romeos that, you know, you have this problem and you have to disassemble the entire dashboard just to get to it? Typical Alfa, naughty naughty. But you can't deny that they're probably the most pleasurable. If you've ever driven one, any Alfa, it doesn't have to be a classic Alfa. Well, it doesn't come with that as standard, unfortunately. You would have to fit your own headlights. If you paid enough money to own one of these back in the day, you would expect some headlights. Come on. I don't know much about Alfa Romeos. I don't pretend to. But the way they drive is unlike anything you have ever driven. Pure drivers' cars. The most purest. GT300. GT300. Oh my goodness me, this has been very much lowered. Oh, we have a Spider. We've got to have an Alfa Romeo Spider that is completely battered at the front. This has been sitting in a barn for many years. Gorgeous engine.
Well, it is basically, yeah, it is
very basic. Oh, okay. Excuse me, I just had to put my nose in there because I can smell the interior. Can you smell the interior from my camera? Because if you could, I think you know the sort of must that only is produced from a car sitting still for many years. Yeah, we've got a lot of dents going on. Oh, it's a G-Reg. It's a G-Reg Spider 2 litre. We have the Fiat X19 Owners Club now. These again fun cars and competed very much with the Triumph TR7 in the late 70s, although there was no competition. This sold in better numbers, far better numbers, and it looks like this has had a complete full-on restoration here. Wow. Okay. This is full on. It still looks relatively used, which is what I like to see. You've got some more examples over here, but this body style, low slung, fun, cheap. Everything about Fiat is cheap but fun, and I got that smack on right. Same with these. I mean, this is the Spider version, I gather. Rather the open tops. Love the seats. The bucket seats are beautiful. Not sure about the steering wheel though. This is an earlier one, judging by the chrome bumpers. Chrome bumpers were very, very early examples. Again, very nice plush seats in there. Next door we have the Fiat Panda Club. Wow. Okay. These are boxy little super minis, absolutely gorgeous little things. These were everywhere when I was growing up, and they were just hugely practical. I mean, they were so compact in the engine bay, they fitted the spare wheel inside the engine bay. Of course, you've got to have the obligatory Panda. I have no idea what this car is, but I do believe that this is owned by Matt Richardson of Furious Driving. He's only just bought it. I have no idea what it is. It looks particularly red. Is this... Very strange. Next to a Mark 1 Punto, there's no competition. Mark 1 Puntos are much better. When was the last time you saw one of these? And this looks like it's used. And obviously, obligatory dents, so clearly it is used. And that's what we like to see. Basic, cheap and fun. This is what the 90s is all about. And this is a Fiat Uno Turbo. Wow. That is gorgeous. Fiat Unos. Remember these? Everybody seemed to have one back in the day, in the 90s. These were cheap. and reliable. You saw these everywhere, Puntos, Unos, Pandas. No wonder Fiat did so well. Pretty much, in terms of popular cars, I think you had Ford, you had VW, but Fiat were not far behind. If you wanted a cheap car, you bought a Fiat. Lovely to see one in such good condition. And you have a 127 Sport, the Fiat 127. Which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a Fiat 127, I think it was a DAF. Am I right in saying that this was a DAF early on in its life? I may be wrong about that. May have got that confused with another car. Pure 70s, that colour. It sticks out like a mile. This is an untouched one. Oh, it's a Scirocco store. Oh, how nice. W Reg, 82. These sort of things I just like to see. You can tell that's been on the car since new. It just looks period. Yeah, I like them. I like them a lot. So the Corrado, brilliant car. Scirocco, beautiful. This is where VW were making really, really cool cars. The 80s, 90s, that's their peak. Anything after the 90s for VW, for me, they started losing it. Wow. Corrado VR6, the V6 version. Wow. You can't see it because it's under a beauty cover. But still, this is when they started introducing this sort of stuff. And this is a 1995 model year car, being completely rebuilt. The VR6 is the one that people generally go for. Just because my neighbour had one many years ago, and the only reason that I remembered what it was, I didn't know what it was these backlights. There's no other car with backlights that look like these, and that hunched backside. It's stunning to see. You can tell that I'm being slightly overcome by what the offers are here. And around the corner we've got the GTI version. Now I think this differs with much sportier suspension, much more firmer. There was a little bit more power up front, but there wasn't that many differences between the two. You've got obviously the fog lights at the front to accompany the headlamps, but this is again being modified on different wheels. Again, each to their own on this one. But you've got these lovely striped seats next to another Corrado. A 4-cylinder Corrado? Yes, it is. Some banging going on in the background. There's lots of stuff going on. We do like a bit of patina, a bit of scabbiness. That's all the realism. I like stuff like that. Oh, you've got a sunroof. Got to have a sunroof. And this has been completely used. You can tell how dirty it is in here. I like to see engine. You know what? Engine bays look really clean, and engine bays that look like this. Either one for me. And I think the older the car, the more I think they should be kept with the scabs. You know, have you seen like Ford Fiestas and Ford Escorts of the 80s with scabby scuttles? Leave it alone. Unless it's rotten, leave it alone. This is what people come to see at this kind of show. Again, this show sort of reflects me. It's the beautification side, but the scabbiness side, and people working on their cars. Now I'm just going to take a ride up here. Take a ride. Ooh, good grief. Okay, that is a Morgan family model. Unbelievable. 3 speeds plus reverse. Fun motoring. Access is important. Just going to walk you down here. Yep, you're missing a piece. And it is really nice to see how many people, young people, that are getting into these cars. I'm seeing more and more of this, and it really gives me some confidence that over time a lot of these cars are going to be kept and looked for. Wow. I think when you see a car that's been stripped back from its paint, you can actually see the body style way more clearly. Paint deceives the eye, but when it's gone matte, you can really see how it starts to come out. This is another Morgan. I have no idea what this is, but it's got a coil. That's important. That coil is going to get it places, trust me. And now we have the Jensen Owners Club. This is a Jensen Healey Mark II. Oh, sorry, Mark 1, sorry. A very early one. And I should be proud of Jensen because they were based in West Brom, the Midlands, and I'm always going to be a fan of anything based in the Midlands. It's just where I was brought up and what I know. It's a shame about Jensen the way they went, but they were a very niche sports car tourer car company. I mean, the most famous one is the Jensen Interceptor over here. This is the most famous one with the goldfish bowl at the back, and I think this is one of the most gorgeous cars ever made. And it's the best. And I'm not being funny. You go to a party and you say, "Oh, what car are you driving these days?" "I've got an Interceptor." Do you know something? You imagine saying that to somebody. It just sounds right. "I've got an Interceptor." It's just cool. Why do cars not have names like this and look this cool? That's right. I think you've got a 3-speed GM gearbox, but the engine in this, being a Series 3, would have been a 7.2 Chrysler engine. I mean, look at the size of the seats. It's got 2 headrests. That's actually quite a common thing to have 2 headrests. I don't know why, but Jensen did not make a lot of their stuff. They made most of the bodywork, most of the running gear, but some of it they bought in. The engines, they had they were affiliated with Chrysler for a long period of time. But do you know what? If I win the lottery, this is the first car on the list before anything else, because it's just beautiful to look at. Around the back here we have a Toyota Land Cruiser 4-wheel drive, which took on from a lot of the Toyota Hilux running gear from what I've been told. Nice to see one that actually survives. Nice to see a more modern car. And next to it we have a Toyota Celica. Now I was going to say an MR2 because they look very, very similar, and they did look very similar for a very short period of time. But obviously the MR2 was mid-engined, the Celica is front-wheel drive. Completely different, but the styling is very similar. And the painters typically done its sort of thing in the sort of 80s, 90s, where red paints don't really suffer very well in any form of sun. But you have to admire the purple seats. Oh gosh. Ooh. Betty's Boutique. Right. Oh yes, the Toyota MR2 Drivers Club, and this is a car that I really should have bought years ago when I had the chance. They're still relatively obtainable. Boxy, mid-engined, fun.
He got rid of his Range Rover, bought this two-door coupe.
Perfect 50-50, perfect balance ratio. That's what you need for driving. If it's a Toyota, it's got to be one of these. It's a very light one as well. Pretty much the same. Brief, that's had some work done to it. We have got. Ooh. This is a 7th now. I believe that this will be the 7th gen. I've got a feeling that I might be wrong when I say that, but good grief, that is some serious engine cover going on. In fact, it's carbon fibre. Mitsubishi. I don't know anything about Mitsubishi, so please let me know what the heck I am looking at. I've never been a true fan of Mitsubishis. It's something that I'm not really into. But again, I can appreciate the technology here. Really well looked after. Got the same one here, needs a bit more work. I've got a G, I think this is a GR. Oh, come all the way to the back, Andrew. You can judge from my silence, I'm unbelievably I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but this paintwork is so sparkly. Wow. Now, there is one owners club which I'm always attracted to, and it is the Lancia Beta Owners Club. Now, this particular one is a Spider 1600. Wow, with its canted engine, just slightly canted towards the back. That's a beautiful example. Always love Lancias. Lancia Betas, they were just rot for earth. They were made of so poor quality metal that it wouldn't be unheard of for them to actually rot out within a few years. But this one, by some hook or crook, has survived. And it's not just survived, it's living better than most cars. There is a particular issue with this engine. Apparently on a cold start, because the actual pump for the steering rack, for the power steering, was actually driven by the camshaft. On a cold morning, the power steering, if you turn the power steering on full lock for a few seconds, it would put the camshaft under so much pressure, it would actually potentially snap the camshaft, and a lot of engines have gone that way. Real failure point of these engines. Not a good design feature, and that's the Italians for you. Just come across this flag, you can just see these gorgeously styled wind mirrors. That's just absolutely exquisite. Should have going from the back side. Just wonderful. And this is an example of some of the parts they actually have made. This is really important. It might be a boring thing that I'm showing you, but this is the sort of thing that a lot of car clubs, if they're not already doing, they will have to do so, because when the manufacturers no longer exist, or don't exist, or exist but are not making parts no more, and the aftermarket manufacturers don't think that there is a profit margin in these parts, then therefore the clubs need to find the manufacturers to have these made. And stuff like radiator hoses, expansion tanks, this sort of stuff, if it's not made, this is what could potentially kill a car off. So it's amazing that this stuff is actually made. I mean, stuff like headlamp retaining rings, engine stability bars, a front wing repair panel because of the rust. Very much so. We've got another one over here, and this is a 2000 Spider, so this is the 2 litre model, but it's literally the same engine, just a higher output engine. does look rather Italian in terms of the wiring. Oh, we have a Fiat, we have a 127, a Fiat 127, which is looking very ropey on the jack stands. But it's getting there. It's getting there, and that's what I like to see. A bit of scabby rust. That's what we all like to see at these shows. Just a bit of patination. I would honestly, on the first day, if I own this car, first day, I'm just getting my orbital sander and taking that straight off back to bare metal. I couldn't stand that, even though I like it as an owner of the. If I own this car, it would be completely annoying. It's got to go. It's got to come off. We're having some serious jacking up done. I've jacked up my cars in weird manners before, but this obviously works. Beautiful to see the work being done. They're doing an oil flush by the look of it, and yeah, quite a big oil flush as well. And this is an Armstrong Siddeley, very popular car manufacturer for the upper classes back in the day. Very, very high class, very high quality, and there is that is some serious engine in there. Size of that is quite powerful, and it would be a side valve engine. You can see everything going on here. Some electrical issues going on. It's getting quite busy at the moment. The show's just picking up. It's coming up to lunchtime. Another Armstrong Siddeley in really good condition. I mean, the size of that engine, straight six, with oil-filled air filters. This is the days before paper air filters. It was oil-filled, so the air was separated and cleaned by the engine oil. The dirt would go into the engine oil, in an oil bath, I should say. Two-tone interior. It's having the whole interior redone by the looks of it. An MGTF by the look of it. How simple is that? I'm going to make my way to the Dream Rides. Now the Dream Ride section is where you pay a fee to ride in a car of your dreams, and there's quite a few cars of variety actually on this show. I'm just going to pass this gorgeous. I don't know what it is, but this lever has been done completely. Oh my goodness, how on earth I did not actually spot this. Sorry. Now this is my pièce de résistance of Rover P6s. I love that I may once again enter soon. No spoilers about that. I would like another one above any other car. They are just gorgeous, with the Didion back axle, the monocoque chassis, with a base unit skeleton underneath. All the body panels bolt off, the roof bolts off, and people don't know that. This one has been resprayed to an inch of its life, and it is a 2000 twin carburettor manual, and it smells, yeah, it smells like my old P6. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And this is a Series 1 with the Shark front end, with the bright work as well. The later ones have a black plastic ABS grille. This one is quite an early Rover 2000 because it has no chrome side strips, and it's been having some work around here. This is an area they can actually go pretty badly. Luckily my example wasn't so bad, but they can go a bit frilly where your water gutters are. And this one is actually Oh, it is a 2000 automatic, which is potentially the slowest P6 of the whole lot, but there are many extras have been fitted to this. Well, my car was a 2000 automatic. Well, it was on paper, but it was actually a 2200 automatic. And the difference is literally this engine. You would have 2 litres stamped on the block. Mine had a 2.2, but it had the same rocker cover. It looks like this one, they've done something with the heater box. So clearly the heater box is obviously gone for a refurb. They are, at this age, they can leak and have serious problems with the fan motors. And also the seals are very difficult to get hold of. But overall, this is really nicely used. So the heater boxes have got an issue where the seals don't actually seal quite well. My one had exactly the same issue. The interior is superb on this. And you have the added option of wing mirrors that may have been fitted later. It may have been an optional extra. You have a HS6 on these earlier ones. Really simple system. It's nice to see that it actually looks used. This one has got the same issue as my old one. The engine mounting has actually collapsed a little bit, and that's actually quite close to the chassis rail, but they all go the same way. It really is nice to see such a nice, honest example. And after just a friendly chat with some of the people from the club, just keeping in touch. That's the problem in this place. You start talking to people and you're talking to them for a good half an hour. This is a 2000 twin carb Earl's Court Copperleaf Red, and I think this would have been on the stand. Some of the finds you can make. Leather seat's got a bit there. Beautiful. Really, really honest. And you've got the earlier radiators on these. The pre-facelift crossflow radiators. This is so nice to see. And then over here we have a 3500S with its vinyl roof, a Huntsman brown vinyl roof in Davos white. That is absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, being the manual version, it was the fastest one, and it's very, very desirable. The chrome work is just sublime. And that's a very sporty air filter as well. And that is really handy to know, because you can get a bit confused sometimes with the amount of plugs. There is a little feature that I will show you. These 100 octane, they had to remind people what quality of fuel to use. The V8 could go up to 100 octane. My 2200 would go up to about 97, 98 octane, so slightly different sticker, but an amazing way of opening your filler cap. You actually flick that, turn the key while pushing that button, and it flips up. Unbelievable sound. Unbelievable. It feels utterly quality. I really must get one. Beach buggies and glitter. Wow, okay. Do you think this is me? This is just hilarious. I mean, it looks fun. Do you not think? Beach buggies are great. Beach buggies have always been great things. Fun. It's quite a contrast to rower P6s, don't you think? You've gone from P6s over there to beach buggies. That is just absolutely amazing. Beach buggies. Just got some spillage there. Yeah. Now I am actually going to show you a P6 over here. We're going to go back to P6s, because this is exactly what you might see in a barn find. And as you can see, this is the base unit. This is basically all of what you have in the skeleton structure of a P6. Literally this. They can go in all sorts of places, around here. They are very, very good at disguising where they go. I mean, the floor pans on this, not particularly great. There's been water in here. It's a left-hand drive version and millions of tons of insulation. The place to check is underneath the back seats. You need to check in these areas here. If you're looking for a P6, you check these areas. Oh, it's an automatic as well. That's wrong. It can't be an S if it's an automatic. And obviously they had to shove the power steering box back up here because there was absolutely no room for it to go anywhere else. The brake servo was fitted in this little section. The slight difference to the 4-cylinders that this wouldn't be here, it would be straight, but they had absolutely no room to put it anywhere else. A little fun fact with the V8s, they had to move the cross member forward to actually accommodate the engine. So the balance on a V8 isn't quite as good as on a 4-cylinder. This is going to need a lot of work. It depends what it's like underneath. It doesn't appear to be too bad. And that's your Sporting Bear Dream Rides, which we're going to look at in a second. They can get a bit scabby down here, but this is also an area you need to check the D-post. Now this bit commonly ruts out on this little bit, and it can spread along the sills, but this one actually looks pretty decent. The fact that this is solid gives me confidence that this is actually just a bit scabby in places.